Hey everyone! Today we're going to be transforming this stunning piece of banded calcite into a beautiful D20. This one has some incredible bands of color, and I love the contrast of deep reds and vibrant oranges against the white calcite. I've been wanting to work on this particular piece for a while now, and I think it's going to make an absolutely beautiful die. But before we can do any cutting, we need to get the stone mounted on a dot. We're going to be using our trusty Loctite 5-minute epoxy resin for this, as it sets up pretty quick and creates a super strong bond. While that's curing, let's talk a little bit about this beautiful stone. Banded calcite is a form of calcium carbonate that forms in layers over time, creating these stunning striped patterns. The reds and oranges come from a rich iron oxide solution that seeps into the cracks and were trapped there as the stone formed. We end up with these beautiful contrasting bands of whites and reds and oranges. So we're starting off with a pretty large stone, which means we're going to end up with a pretty large die. Because of that, we're going to go with a bevel design for this one. This will help relieve a lot of pressure from the corners and edges, which will make it much more durable for rolling, alongside adding even more pretty facets. For this die, we're going to start off with our 120 grit diamond topper lap. This is a very rough lap, but it's perfect for quickly removing a lot of material. From there, we'll move to a 240 lap to cut through the damage caused by our 120, followed by a 600 lap to bring every face to its final location, as well as cut in the bevels. From there, we'll do a super quick pre-polish on 3000 grit, and then we'll move to our homemade leather lap with alumina oxide for polishing. So let's get cutting. So I just finished cutting in our first faces on the 120, and it's revealed a fairly large fissure that wraps around this portion of the die. This could potentially be a problem. There's a real risk that the stone might split along this line and portions of it could detach. But we're going to carefully continue through our 240 grit and see if it'll hold together. Before we move on though, we're going to take a second and clean up our machine and workspace. Here's a great example of why a respirator is so important when cutting stone. All of this and much more dust could have ended up directly inside of my lungs. Long-term exposure to stone dust can lead to some really nasty lung diseases, and wearing a respirator greatly reduces that risk. Taking a few minutes after each step to clean up can make a huge difference, especially after we've removed a lot of material. Not only is this dust very dangerous to our health, even small specks can contaminate our laps and cause a ton of trouble. A few extra minutes of cleaning here could potentially save us hours and hours of work down the line. So remember that fissure I showed you after our 120 grit? Unfortunately, the stone did end up separating along it during our 240 grit work. But don't worry, we can still fix it. First, we're going to remove all the pieces and then clean both surfaces thoroughly with some isopropyl alcohol. Then we'll use some super thin Star-Bond cyanoacrylate glue to bond it all back together. While I'm at it, I'm going to work some of this thin glue into any other small cracks I can see. I don't think there'll be a problem, but this will just help to stabilize the stone and prevent any more surprises down the line. Not a huge deal, and definitely something we can fix. And here's our stone all glued up and secured. The CA glue did a really good job of seeping deep into all the cracks around the main break, and we'll be able to confidently move forward without worrying that it'll break again. I also took a quick moment to go around and apply some of the CA glue to the smaller cracks. Again, I really don't foresee these becoming a problem, but we might as well do it since we're here. Now we're just going to quickly recut everything with the 240 grit lap to get all the faces back down to even, then we'll continue moving forward from there. Here's the final polish on our first side, and it's turning out wonderfully. I was definitely a bit worried after the break, but it's cut and polished up beautifully since then. Now we're going to get the dog transferred to the other side using our transfer jig and some more epoxy resin, then we'll repeat the process for the second half. From there, we'll cut out numbering masks on our CNC machine, sandblast the numbers in, paint them, and then we'll be all finished up. If you're enjoying watching this die come to life, make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons below. It only takes a second and it really does help me out. Your support helps me to continue making more dice and videos like this. When I look at this die, I imagine Ka-En standing at the great sacred forge of the Ishi temple deep in the elemental plane of earth. His long black hair shifts through deep reds to brilliant orange before flickering into living flame. His molten orange eyes swirl like a forge, reflecting the hot steel before him. Each hammer strike sends sparks flying just as his mother's did, teaching him in their village smithy, watched over proudly by his father, Akiro of the great flame blade. But those peaceful days ended in fire and steel. The Shogun's forces came at twilight, torches cutting through the dusk like fallen stars. Through the inferno, Ka-En watched his father fight, great flame blade drawn in a final defiance. His mother pressed her final masterpiece into his hands, ordering him to run, and so he fled, the crimson dawn strapped to his back, forever stained by the reflecting fires of his burning home. Now, a ghost of flame, he travels the elemental plane seeking the masters of blade and element. At each forge, he tempers the steel of his blade, instilling the powerful techniques of his masters. He now moves with the water temple's grace, but flows like lava, inexorable. He strikes with the air temple's precision, each movement unleashing searing steam. He claims the earth temple's unshakable stance, and the ground heats and rises to his call. Each master technique brings him closer to the truth his father died protecting, a secret that threatens not just the city of Ash, but all the planes it touches. Whispers now pass through the Shogun's guard of a warrior who moves like water but burns like fire, who stands unmovable as earth yet strikes swift as air. What they don't understand is that Ka-En forges more than just steel in his mother's memory. He forges a new path, one that bridges worlds just as he himself bridges fire and flesh, vengeance and justice, creation and destruction. But soon they will feel the fire of the Crimson Dawn.